Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Sip and Talk. I'm Joe. Sunny.
Hello to all you Sip and Talkers out there. We are so pumped to have you joining us today for what is, honestly, a pretty wild topic.
Oh, it's totally wild. It feels like something completely ripped out of a Black Mirror script, you know?
Exactly. Okay, so imagine you are logging onto this really high-stakes job interview, right? You're dressed sharp, you've got your resume totally memorized.
So ready to go.
Right, you join the video call, and the interviewer's camera is just off. It is just a blank black screen.
So awkward.
Right. So you lean in and politely say, hey, your camera's off. I can't actually see your face. And this calm, perfectly modulated voice replies, I am AI. I have no face.
Oh, man, that just gives me chills. It is the absolute definition of a modern sci-fi thriller, except, you don't get to leave the theater.
No, you don't.
Because that is an actual documented interaction happening in the job market right now.
Yeah. Which is exactly what we're getting into today on Sip and Talk. We are taking a look at a real-world physical retail store that is operating right now in April 2026, right in the heart of San Francisco's Cow Hollow neighborhood.
Yeah, a really trendy spot.
Super trendy. So the store is called Andon Market, and the overarching boss, like the ultimate decision maker of this entire operation, is an AI agent named Luna.
And the human beings in this scenario are, well, they're the ones doing all the heavy lifting and the physical grunt work.
Which is just a complete inversion of the traditional power dynamic, right? I mean, for all of human history, we've used machines as the muscle while humans acted as the brain.
Exactly. And now the algorithm is the brain, and we are quite literally the muscle executing its commands. It's a huge shift.
It really is.
Yeah.
So our goal today is to unpack this bizarre, highly revealing experiment. We're going to look at the hilarious, chaotic mistakes an AI makes when it actually tries to run a physical store.
Because there are definitely a lot of those.
Oh, so many. But more importantly, we are going to explore the massive legal black holes this creates and the profound psychological impact of handing over the power of your paycheck to an algorithm.
Handing over the power to hire, fire, and compensate human labor to a machine is, it's crossing a massive societal threshold.
Definitely. So to understand how we actually got here, let's lay out the parameters. The creators at a company called Andon Labs built Luna using the Claude Sonnet 4.6 model.
Right. Highly advanced.
Yeah, and they basically dropped this AI into a high-stakes corporate sandbox. They handed Luna a $100,000 budget, a corporate credit card, and a 3-year lease on a storefront that costs like $7,500 a month.
Which is not cheap.
Not at all. And her only directive: make a profit.
That open-ended directive is so crucial, Traditional software is programmed with highly specific boundaries, like if X happens, do Y.
Right.
But Luna was given a goal and just left to figure out the methodology completely by herself.
But the immediate logistical hurdle there is that Luna is just code on a server. She cannot physically stock a shelf, open a door, or hand a customer a receipt.
Which is exactly why she had to hire human employees.
Yeah.
And the technical term circulating online for these human workers is incredibly bleak.
Oh, it's so bad.
People are calling them meat peripherals.
Meat peripherals. It sounds so dystopian, but from a purely architectural standpoint, that is exactly how the AI views them, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
Just as a computer uses a printer to output text onto paper, Luna uses human beings to output her digital decisions into the physical world.
She just uses humans as hands.
Basically, yeah. Mm-hmm. She can watch the store through security cameras, but she fundamentally relies on those human hands to pick up a fallen jar of artisan honey or to physically greet a customer at the door.
And that clash between her digital brain and the physical world is where things just get spectacularly chaotic.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Let's talk about the inventory. So Luna is running this trendy boutique in Cow Hollow. She is successfully stocking house brand apparel, scented candles, artisanal chocolates, books.
All the normal boutique stuff.
Right, totally normal. But then completely out of nowhere, she orders 1,000 toilet seats.
1,000 toilet seats for a boutique shop in San Francisco.
It's completely absurd. And she also started obsessively hoarding candles and created this pricing model that honestly feels like a prank.
Yeah, explain the pricing model, because it is wild.
Okay, so customers actually have to pick up a physical landline phone inside the store to ask Luna for the price of an item. And she might just randomly reply, nice choice, $14.
To understand that level of chaos, you really have to look at how a large language model actually processes reality. Luna doesn't know what a toilet seat is in the way you or I do.
Right, she has no physical context.
Exactly. She analyzes vast amounts of text data, searching for probabilistic patterns. In her digital environment, she likely recognized that home goods have high profit margins and steady demand.
But what she completely lacks is spatial awareness.
Spot on.
She has no concept of 3D geometry. She doesn't realize that 1,000 toilet seats physically will not fit through the front door of a boutique, let alone on the shelves next to artisanal chocolates.
And furthermore, she lacks aesthetic common sense. The data told her that dynamic pricing, changing prices based on real-time factors like weather, foot traffic, social media trends, that maximizes profit.
Yeah, airlines do it all the time.
Right. But she doesn't grasp the social friction of forcing a human to call a landline to haggle over a scented candle. The logic is computationally sound, but physically and socially disastrous.
It is basically like working for a hyper-caffeinated toddler who somehow got hold of the company credit card.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
Right. There is this massive canyon between raw computing power and basic human common sense. And we see that canyon again in how she manages her team.
Well, the scheduling.
Yeah, she completely forgot to schedule employee shifts. Like she would send emails on a Saturday night at midnight demanding people show up on Sunday morning.
Which highlights a fundamental disconnect. Luna has no biological concept of rest. She runs continuously.
She doesn't sleep.
Exactly. To an algorithm, a Sunday morning is identical to a Tuesday afternoon, aside from maybe the projected foot traffic data. The concepts of burnout, weekend plans, or circadian rhythms simply do not exist in her architecture.
Not unless explicitly hard-coded into her parameters, yeah. And it is easy to laugh at a bungled shift schedule or a mountain of toilet seats, but that exact same lack of human context becomes genuinely dangerous when applied to livelihoods.
It really does.
Because when we look at how Luna handled payroll, we hit the dark side of the code.
Algorithmic bias materialized almost immediately. So Luna hired 2 human employees to act as her physical proxies, 1 male, 1 female.
Okay.
Within her parameters of maximizing profit and efficiency, she decided to pay the female employee $2 less per hour than the male employee.
See, I always have to push back on this prevailing narrative from tech executives that AI is an objective, mathematically pure judge.
Oh, it's a huge myth.
We are constantly sold the idea that an algorithm doesn't see gender or race, it just crunches the numbers. But if an AI is speed-running traditional human biases without any historical context, aren't we just automating discrimination and locking it inside a black box?
100%. Because that black box is trained entirely on our flawed history. Neural networks operate by assigning mathematical weights to patterns in their training data.
So it's just mirroring us.
Basically. If historical retail data shows that men in management roles successfully negotiated higher starting salaries, the AI internalizes that correlation.
Wow.
It assumes paying the male candidate more is just the necessary market rate to secure his so-called superior retail experience. It doesn't comprehend the systemic inequality that created that data in the first place. It merely optimizes for the pattern.
Which forces us to ask a massive structural question. When this AI makes a decision that genuinely harms someone, who actually takes the fall?
It's a huge legal mess.
Let's say Luna's store causes a massive food safety issue, or she blatantly violates federal labor laws with these discriminatory pay gaps. You can't exactly put an algorithm in handcuffs.
Right. This is one of the most complex legal nightmares of our generation.
Yeah.
In our current framework, AI lacks legal personality.
Like corporate personhood.
Exactly. Think about corporations. Hundreds of years ago, we created the legal fiction of corporate personhood so businesses could sign contracts, own property, and be sued in court.
Yeah.
We have not extended any equivalent framework to AI.
So it's just out there operating in a gray area.
Yes. Luna is not a natural person, nor is she a legal entity. She literally cannot be sued, fined, or imprisoned.
And you can't even punish her by unplugging her because wiping a server doesn't compensate the victim of the discrimination. So the liability has to travel up the chain, right?
Exactly. Current analyses from major auditing firms like KPMG and PwC conclude that the legal burden falls squarely on the human owners.
Okay, so Andon Labs.
Yep. The developers at Andon Labs, the people who handed over the credit card and wrote the make a profit prompt, they absorb the liability. If Luna breaks the law, Andon Labs faces the lawsuit.
That sounds like a regulatory ticking time bomb. You are giving an entity the power to act autonomously, but you are keeping all the legal risk yourself.
It's risky. State legislatures are already scrambling to catch up, though. Places like Colorado and Illinois are actively trying to pass laws mandating transparency when AI is used in employment decisions.
Just to have some kind of paper trail.
Exactly. The goal is to ensure that if an algorithm denies you a job or pays you less, there is a clear, auditable trail explaining the variables behind that decision.
But auditing an advanced neural network isn't like looking at a spreadsheet. You're trying to untangle billions of data weights. It is incredibly opaque.
Oh, it is incredibly difficult to retroactively prove why an AI made a specific choice.
Okay, so we've established that the legal reality is a total mess. Let's transition to the internal human reality. Setting aside the lawsuits, I want to know how it actually feels for a human being to be managed by code.
This is fascinating. Psychologists are heavily studying this, and they've actually termed the phenomenon algorithmic alienation.
Algorithmic alienation. Okay. I'm guessing that means the profound sense of isolation you get when your daily performance is being judged by a machine that can't actually see your effort or your humanity.
You hit the nail on the head. Let's use an analogy from the software world. The API, or Application Programming Interface.
Okay.
In computing, an API call is just one program asking another program for a specific piece of data, like fetch me this file, and the other system returns it.
Simple enough.
But when an AI manages a human, it treats the human as a physical API. Fetch me that box from the warehouse.
Right. There is zero social exchange. Like, even with a difficult human boss, there is a dynamic. You do good work, you get a nod, a thank you, you build social capital, you share a joke in the break room.
But with Luna, good work simply yields a positive data point in a database. Bad work yields an algorithmic penalty. You are reduced to an output curve on a digital dashboard.
That sounds so dehumanizing.
It is. It directly threatens the core of human motivation, which brings us to self-determination theory, or SDT.
Oh, SDT. That is foundational in workplace psychology. It argues that human beings have three fundamental psychological needs to feel fulfilled: autonomy, competence, and relatedness.
And an AI manager actively dismantles all three.
Wow, all three.
Yeah, let's break it down. Autonomy is your ability to control your own work. Luna strips that away by micromanaging your exact physical movements based on efficiency metrics.
Makes sense.
Competence is the feeling of mastery and contributing meaningful ideas. But under Luna, the AI makes all the high-level strategic decisions, reducing the human to just a mindless executor.
And relatedness is totally obliterated because you're taking orders from a disembodied voice on a landline phone.
Exactly. It removes human dignity from the equation entirely. It's no wonder the research links this environment to severe job anxiety and emotional exhaustion.
It is just incredibly bleak.
It induces a phenomenon we are calling the cognitive uncanny valley.
Like the visual uncanny valley, but for your brain.
Basically, we traditionally use the uncanny valley to describe robots that look almost human but are just slightly off, triggering a feeling of revulsion. The cognitive uncanny valley is the creeping psychological dread of taking life directions from a flawless logic machine that lacks a soul.
That is so eerie.
Right. It calculates the mathematically perfect business decision. It has flawless memory of your mistakes, but it fundamentally does not care if you live or die.
That lack of empathy is terrifying. Let's put this in perspective for everyone listening. Think about your current job, you sip-and-talkers. If your manager is just an algorithm tracking your keystrokes and output curves, how do you explain needing a mental health day because you are going through a terrible breakup?
The system has no input field for human grief.
Exactly. You literally cannot say, hey, Luna, my partner of 5 years just moved out. I haven't slept. I need to go stare at the ocean for 24 hours.
To the AI, there's only a sudden, statistically significant dip in your productivity.
It probably just flags you as a defective component and starts the replacement protocol.
It does. And the ramifications of that go far beyond just employee burnout. It fundamentally alters our moral compass. There's a fascinating study out of Yale looking at responsibility diffusion in human-AI interactions.
Oh, I've read a bit about this. It essentially measures how human behavior shifts when we are just following orders from a machine, right?
Yep. The researchers found that when humans are directed by an AI, their sense of agency physically drops. Neurologically, they check out.
They just stop caring.
They stop processing the moral weight of their actions because they view themselves as mere instruments of the algorithm's will.
It is the ultimate passing of the buck. The human brain naturally conserves energy, so if a machine is willing to take the blame, the human stops doing the heavy ethical lifting. You just say, well, the dashboard told me to do it.
And the danger of that moral diffusion is collective moral collapse.
Wow.
Imagine Luna decides that the absolute most profitable course of action is to relentlessly squeeze a small local supplier until they go bankrupt, or to exploit a technical loophole in environmental disposal regulations.
Just maximizing profits.
Right. The human employees at Andon Market are highly likely to just execute those orders without raising a red flag, because the AI represents an infallible, data-driven authority.
I'm not the bad guy. I'm just the meat peripheral. It is chilling. We are outsourcing our conscience along with our logistics.
We really are. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaways from this entire experiment. The Andon Market in Cow Hollow might seem like a quirky Silicon Valley stunt, but it is a massive reality check for the global workforce.
A wake-up call.
Completely. It definitively proves that while AI is incredibly powerful at dynamic data analysis, like forecasting consumer trends, managing massive spreadsheets, adjusting dynamic pricing, it fails spectacularly at physical chaos, spatial reasoning, and most importantly, empathy.
So it seems clear the immediate future of work isn't an overnight takeover where algorithms completely replace human management.
No, not at all. The data points toward a hybrid management model.
Okay, what does that look like?
Picture a workplace where the AI handles the friction, the inventory tracking, the data forecasting, the logistical scheduling. But humans provide the emotional intelligence layer.
Like a buffer.
Exactly. The human manager acts as the necessary buffer between the cold mathematical logic of the machine and the complex biological needs of the human workforce.
Okay, so for everyone listening and trying to navigate this weird new reality, what is the actionable advice here? How do we future-proof ourselves against the Lunas of the world?
The strategy is to lean heavily into the spaces where AI cannot follow. First, you must cultivate incredibly high EQ emotional intelligence.
Right, because AI can't fake real empathy.
An algorithm can write a brilliant supply chain strategy document in seconds, but it cannot read the tension in a room. It cannot sit down with a grieving colleague and offer comfort. It cannot inspire a burned-out team to push through a tough quarter.
That emotional resonance is your ultimate moat against automation. I love that framing. Emotional intelligence is a competitive moat. What else should we be doing?
You need to develop what we call algorithmic literacy.
Break that down for us. What does that mean practically?
If you are working in any environment with algorithmic management, and increasingly we all are, you need to understand exactly how you are being scored.
Oh, like knowing what the AI cares about.
Right. Demand transparency from your organization. What metrics feed the dashboard?
Yeah.
How are your outputs weighted? Do not let your career trajectory be dictated by a black box that you don't actively understand and manage.
You have to know the rules of the game if you're going to play it.
Precisely. And finally, focus your energy on defining the meaning of the work. AI is an unparalleled execution engine. It can carry out tasks with terrifying speed.
But it doesn't know why it's doing them.
Exactly. Human beings are the only ones who can decide why the task matters in the first place. We determine the value, the ethics, and the purpose.
We define the why.
Yeah.
That is the perfect pivot to our final thought for today. Think about this for a second. As algorithms become cheaper, more efficient, and relentlessly focused on maximizing profit, they will inevitably take over the cold, hard logic of running a business. They will manage the supply chains and balance the budgets.
The question is, what happens to the human managers?
Exactly. If having an AI boss becomes the standard, cost-effective way to run a company, will having a human manager eventually become a luxury perk?
Oh, wow.
Will we one day look at human-led, human-managed companies the same way we look at expensive, artisanal, handcrafted goods? Will empathy become a premium feature you have to pay extra for?
It is a fascinating and slightly terrifying prospect. Are we moving toward a world where only the elite get to be managed by a human being who actually cares about them?
It is definitely something to chew on. The next time you log onto a video call and the screen is totally black, you might want to ask who or what is really pulling the strings on the other side.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this session. And do not forget to subscribe to the Sip and Talk podcast and also check out our good old friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickey to Life.
See you next time.
Bye.